How far can you go when everything you believed in shatters? William's life had always been simple and predictable: home, comfort, love. But one night changed everything. His wife, Miley, walked out, leaving behind only an unsettling silence and a gut feeling that something was terribly wrong. When she returned, she wasn't the woman he once knew. The marks on her neck screamed betrayal. The fire in her eyes dared him to react. In one moment, one choice, the home they had built together became a battleground of pain, fury, and cold calculation. But this breakup isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Because now, William has a mission: to expose the truth, reclaim control, and settle the score. How far will he go for justice? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. William leaned against the weathered railing of his porch, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the remnants of daylight dissolved into the deepening dusk. A soft breeze rustled through the trees, but it did little to soothe the unease tightening in his chest. His life had always been steady, predictable, a quiet existence shared with his wife, Miley. Yet lately, an invisible wall had formed between them, widening with each passing day. The warmth she once exuded so effortlessly now seemed distant, slipping through his grasp like grains of sand. Tonight was no exception. She had casually mentioned going out with friends earlier, but something about the way she said it unsettled him. He lingered near the door, waiting. When she finally stepped outside, the sight of her knocked the breath from his lungs. She was stunning, almost unrecognizably so. The sleek dress clung to her form, catching the dim glow of the porch light in a way that made her seem ethereal. Her makeup was striking: bold red lips, flawless complexion, a level of effort she rarely indulged in. This wasn't the Miley he knew, the woman who preferred a natural elegance over overt sophistication. A silent alarm rang in his mind. "Is that really necessary?" he asked, his voice measured, though concern edged his words. "Seems a bit much for just a casual night out." She exhaled sharply, rolling her eyes. "William, it's just a dress. You're reading too much into this. I'll be back before you know it." His frown deepened. The gnawing feeling in his gut refused to ease. "I just don't think it's appropriate. What if—" Miley's expression hardened as she crossed her arms. "I can take care of myself. I don't need your approval." Before he could form a response, she turned sharply on her heels, the sound of her stilettos striking the wooden steps with deliberate finality. He could do nothing but watch as she strode toward her car, radiating defiance with every step. The slam of the car door echoed through the quiet evening, and William remained frozen, staring long after her taillights had disappeared into the night. He sank onto the porch steps with a heavy sigh, hoping the warm air might unravel the tension coiled inside him. Instead, his mind drifted to better times, memories filled with Miley's laughter, late-night conversations, and fleeting moments of effortless joy. Now, there was only silence, a chasm between them he didn't know how to bridge. Pulling out his phone, he scrolled through old photos, snapshots of beachside vacations, stolen glances, a past that suddenly felt impossibly distant. Desperate for distraction, he called his best friend. "Hey, Kellen, you busy?" The response was immediate. "Nah. What's going on?" William hesitated for a second before admitting, "Just need some company. Miley's out and something doesn't feel right. Say no more. I'll be there soon." Not long after, Kellen arrived, 2 beers in hand. They settled on the porch, their conversation meandering through light-hearted topics in an attempt to lift the weight off William's shoulders. But no matter how many jokes Kellen cracked or stories he told, William's thoughts kept circling back to Miley. The unease sat heavy in his chest, refusing to fade. After a long pause, he finally voiced his deepest fear. "You think I'm overreacting?" Kellen took a slow sip of his beer before shaking his head. "You're worried about your marriage. That's not overreacting. But maybe wait and talk to her when she's in a better mood." William nodded, appreciating the advice even if it didn't ease the tightness in his stomach. As the night stretched on, Kellen eventually took his leave, and William was left alone once more. The house, usually a place of comfort, now felt hollow. He checked his phone compulsively, hoping for a message, a missed call, anything. But the silence was unbroken. He flipped through channels on the TV, picked up a book, tried to occupy himself, but his mind refused to be distracted. The quiet that once felt like solace now suffocated him. The ticking of the clock grew louder with each passing second, marking the hours of Miley's absence. Midnight loomed, and just as his nerves threatened to unravel completely, the low hum of an approaching car pierced the silence. William bolted upright, his pulse hammering as he moved to the window. What he saw made his stomach drop. Miley stumbled out of the passenger seat, leaning heavily against a man William had never seen before. The stranger's hands lingered on her waist, fingers tracing over her curves with an unsettling familiarity. They whispered and laughed, oblivious or indifferent to the eyes watching them. William's hands curled into fists as they neared the front door. The moment they stepped inside, the pungent scent of alcohol filled the air. His gaze immediately fell to the dark marks marring her neck, undeniable proof of what had transpired. A cold wave of betrayal crashed over him, leaving him paralyzed in its wake. William's breath hitched, his voice a volatile mix of anger and agony. "What the hell is this?" His gaze drilled into Miley, who stared back with a smirk laced with defiance and disdain. "Enough, William. You don't own me," she said, her tone sharp with contempt. Leaning in slightly, she let her words drip with venom. "And if you don't step back, my lover here would be more than happy to teach you a lesson." The man beside her grinned, eyes flashing with provocation. "You heard her, pal. Walk away while you still can." Something inside William shattered. Without hesitation, he closed the space between them and struck Miley across the face. The slap cut through the silence like a gunshot. She staggered, gasping as her hand flew to her burning cheek, her expression contorting in shock and rage. "You son of a bitch!" she shrieked. As she stumbled, her lover lunged, fists clenched, but William was ready. With a brutal shove, he sent the man reeling backward. His voice was ice. "Get the hell out of my house." The intruder hesitated, glancing toward Miley for direction, but she was too consumed by her own emotions to respond. Tears welled in her eyes, her mask of indifference beginning to crack. When no signal came, the man scoffed, retreating toward the door. "This isn't over," he muttered before slamming it behind him. William turned back to Miley, who stood trembling, streaks of tears marking her face. The sight of her did nothing to soften the fury raging inside him. "How could you do this, Miley? How could you bring him here?" His voice wavered, raw pain bleeding into his anger. Wiping at her tears, she forced herself to regain control. "Maybe I needed to do something drastic. Maybe I needed you to finally see how miserable I've been." The words sliced through him, cutting past his rage and striking something deeper. William's chest tightened as he stared at her, struggling to comprehend. "So this is my fault? You actually think your betrayal is on me?" He shook his head, his stomach twisting at the absurdity of it. She exhaled sharply, her frustration evident. "It's not about blame, William. It's about the fact that this—" She gestured between them, her voice hollow. "Is over. Our marriage is done." Her words hit like a final nail in the coffin. A suffocating emptiness spread through him, erasing every trace of the love they once shared. When he finally spoke, his voice was drained, stripped of emotion. "If that's how you feel, then there's nothing left to say." She averted her gaze, her posture deflating. With a shaky breath, she muttered, "I'll pack my things. I'll be gone by morning." William barely nodded, his voice flat. "Do whatever you want, Miley. Just know you destroyed everything we built." Without another word, he turned and walked away, putting as much distance between them as possible. In the kitchen, he grabbed a glass and filled it with water, gripping it tightly as he fought to steady himself. But the storm within him refused to subside. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak, each emotion clawed at him relentlessly. From the hallway, Miley's muffled sobs drifted to his ears, but he remained still. There was nothing left to comfort. This was the end. As he sat at the kitchen table, the weight of reality bore down on him. The woman he had once cherished now felt like a stranger. And yet, beneath the devastation, something else stirred, something colder, sharper. She had humiliated him, torn their marriage apart as if it meant nothing. And for that, there would be consequences, not just for her, for him too. Thomas, that was his name now, and Thomas would pay. The house had fallen eerily quiet, save for the occasional sound of Miley moving around behind her closed bedroom door. But William was no longer concerned with her tears. His thoughts were elsewhere, moving rapidly, calculating. This wasn't just infidelity, it was a betrayal that demanded retribution, and he would ensure they both felt it. Sleep never came that night. He sat in the dark, thoughts churning, weaving a plan. The divorce was already in motion. That much was inevitable, but it wasn't enough. Miley wouldn't just walk away and forget this. She needed to feel the full weight of what she had done. By the time dawn's light seeped through the curtains, the grief had dulled into something sharper, more precise. The agony had transformed into something far more potent: determination. Revenge wouldn't rewrite the past, but it would restore the one thing Miley had stolen from him: control. With deliberate movements, he poured himself a cup of coffee, his mind assembling his next steps. He needed evidence, irrefutable proof. The world had to see Miley for what she truly was. Over the following days, he worked methodically, scouring her social media, combing through messages, unearthing every deception she had tried to keep hidden, every flirtation, every lie, every piece of proof he needed to expose her. Miley had started this fire. Now, William would make sure she burned in it. William was methodical, leaving no room for doubt. Every step she took, every location she visited, he tracked it all with unwavering focus. His escalating suspicion led him to a drastic measure: a GPS tracker, discreetly fastened beneath her car, silently transmitting her every move. It was a calculated risk, one he deemed essential. Then, one night, as he sifted through the accumulated data and recordings, the confirmation he dreaded finally surfaced. The audio was faint but unmistakable, a hushed exchange caught within the confines of Miley's vehicle. Her voice, laced with anxiety, bore the weight of her deceit. "I can't keep this up," she confessed to Thomas, her lover. "William is getting more intense. I just want to live in that house." Thomas's response was laced with amusement, his arrogance palpable. "Relax. He's clueless. We've got nothing to worry about." William's fists clenched, his pulse pounding in his ears. Rage coursed through him, but he knew that raw emotion wouldn't be enough. Now he had the truth, the proof he needed. And with that, he set his plan into motion. The next morning, he made the call. When Kellen arrived, he immediately sensed the shift. The warmth and ease William once carried had vanished, replaced by a calculated intensity. Without hesitation, William laid out his plan, his tone firm, devoid of doubt. "I'm confronting her," he stated, his eyes cold with determination. "She won't be able to deny it. I'm filing for divorce, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what she did." Kellen studied his friend carefully. "You're sure? Once this starts, there's no undoing it." William met his gaze with certainty. "There's nothing left to fix. She made her choice. Now she faces the consequences. The moment of truth arrived. The living room, thick with tension, had become the arena where everything would come to a head. Laid out on the coffee table was an envelope, divorce papers, accompanied by an array of damning evidence, photographs, text exchanges, recordings. He had even printed messages from social media, ensuring there would be no room for denial. The front door creaked open. Miley stepped inside, her face momentarily softening at the sight of William. But as her gaze landed on the documents in his hands, her expression hardened. "What now?" she snapped, tossing her purse onto the couch. "Another round of baseless accusations?" William took a deliberate step forward, his voice steady, void of emotion. "Not accusations, just the truth." He handed her the envelope. "Divorce papers. This is over." Color drained from her face as she took them, her fingers trembling. "You're serious?" "Completely," he affirmed. "I have undeniable proof. If you refuse to sign, we take this to court." Her bravado faltered, replaced by a wave of desperation. "William, please. We can talk about this. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly." He shook his head, his resolve unshaken. "A mistake? You lied to me for months. You schemed behind my back. That wasn't confusion, Miley. That was a decision." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. "Please, William, don't do this. I love you. We can fix it." William's anger erupted as he flung a stack of photographs onto the floor beside her. "Then explain these. Explain how love justifies this." Her gaze landed on the incriminating images of her and Thomas. Reality hit her like a wave. There was no escape. "I was lost," she whispered. "I didn't know what I was doing." William's voice was cold, unwavering. "No, Miley. You knew exactly what you were doing, and now you face the consequences." She crawled toward him, clutching at his pant leg. "I can't lose you. I'll do anything." He pulled away, shaking his head. "It's too late. I gave you every chance, and you showed me where your loyalty truly lies." Desperation filled her eyes. "I'll change. I'll get help. We can go to therapy. Just one more chance." For a moment, he hesitated. But then, his resolve hardened. "I don't trust you anymore, Miley. This isn't just about what you did. It's about who you are. And I refuse to share my life with someone like that." Her sobs quieted as the finality of his words settled in. No more arguments. No more pleading. She had already lost. She had crossed a threshold that could never be retraced. The damage was done, irreversible. "What happens now?" she murmured, her voice barely audible, drained of all its strength. William's reply was steady, unyielding, yet without bitterness. "You sign the papers. We move forward separately. You take the time to understand yourself, to figure out what it is you really want. Maybe, one day, you'll come to terms with the choice you've made." Miley's hands shook as she clutched the pen. Each stroke across the page felt like driving another nail into the coffin of their marriage. When the final signature was in place, she passed the documents back to William, her expression vacant. He accepted them in silence, his face unreadable as his eyes flickered over the inked signatures that cemented their ending. "I'll file these tomorrow," he said after a moment. "You should start packing." Miley pushed herself to her feet, her legs unsteady. "William, Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. For all of it." For a fleeting instant, something in his eyes softened, but his resolve remained unshaken. "I know, Miley. But this time, sorry isn't enough." As she disappeared into the bedroom, William let himself sink into the couch, releasing a slow breath. The weight of the past weeks bore down on him, heavy, relentless. He had done what had to be done, but the sting of betrayal still lingered. And yet, for the first time in weeks, something stirred beneath the sorrow, a faint, fragile whisper of hope. This story has come to an end. The pain of betrayal is inevitable, but how we respond to it is always our choice. William could have drowned in anger, sought revenge, and destroyed everything. But was it truly worth it? Infidelity doesn't always mean the end, but trust, once broken, is rarely restored. True strength isn't found in vengeance, but in the ability to let go. Spying, manipulation, and mind games turn the victim into the villain. The wisest path is to break the toxic cycle, walk away with dignity, and start anew. Because the best revenge isn't ruining someone else's life. It's building a better one for yourself. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.